Alright, this time I thought I'd do a quick video on some information on old shotguns. These old shotguns like this, they break down pretty easily. You know, like when you're taking the barrel off and the handle. You know, just like a modern firearm. What I wanted to talk about was the internals. And if you're thinking about doing any work on these, might even, you know, if you're thinking about buying one and the condition isn't all that great. I did a video on this one. This is an N.R. Davis double barrel hammerless from the 30s. And this one, when I got it, it had 30-inch barrels. I cut them down, but I didn't have to. But it did need to be refinished. The metal had to be touched up, and the wood had to be completely refinished because the finish was degraded to the point that wasn't any good. And it had a screw that had been stripped out. So I had to, and I still actually have to get a blank because this is a temporary one that I made to cut one because it's a special type of recessed head, and they generally don't sell it, so I have to actually shape it to fit. But if you look at these, there's a lot of moving parts, not so much more than a lot of other firearms. But I mean, in comparison to like say a modern shotgun, right? Mossberg, 500. These, I've heard some people do videos on these because some people didn't understand how to take them apart, but I think that's for novices. I mean, if you've worked on firearms, you would find a shotgun like the Mossberg 500 relatively simple to take apart and put back together, if you've done it more than once. And that's the way I look at it. I mean, I've taken this Mossberg 500s apart and put them back together, a couple of dozen times at least, and I can do it, in 5 minutes. I take it down, put it back together again. Now, that's not, bravado. I'm just pointing out that it's an easy design, take apart and put back together. It doesn't require any special tools, really. Well, with old shotguns like this, something from the 30s or farther back, not only may you require special tools, but you may have to fabricate parts or tools. And this is a prime example of having to fabricate a tool. This is a H&R 1908. These shotguns like this, and even like that double, they have hammers that are in the receiver. This one was an exposed hammer. Those they call hammerless, but they're internal hammers, and you don't see the hammer, but they're there. When you put these hammers in, the springs go in with them, and the problem is it's kind of like a lot like putting on a serpentine belt. Could you put a serpentine belt on by hand without the tool? No. Well, you can have the same problem with these. You cannot put the hammers in without a tool, especially this 1908. In fact, a guy had a video we had to make a piece of aluminum to fit in there to push the hammer in and hold it where you pin it. And that's how I got one of these back together. This is a parts one. This one was, the barrel was no good, the internals were no good, the firing pin was no good, and here's another problem. Parts for this are very hard to get now. Certain parts, certain prime parts that go bad, you can't get for some of these shotguns, especially one like this. This is from the teens, and I think it's around 1917 to 1920, and you can't get some of the parts for it. The same thing with this N.R. Davis. Certain parts, screws, for example, like this, they don't have. Numerous doesn't have them, so you may have to fabricate them. In essence, what I want to say in this video is, if you think about buying a shotgun like this. Now, this shotgun I bought at an auction for a little over $100. It was in working condition, but it needed to be cleaned up, and I decided that I wanted it a little bit shorter. If I went to resell it, I might get two and a quarter on a good day, So I certainly didn't buy it and redo it for the money. to make money. In the second part of this video, I'm going to show you how to roll a cigarette. No, seriously. So yeah, my battery had just died, and so I had to make this had to cut in the middle. My point is that, like, if you get into firearms, you could service like a common gun, like a Mossberg 500. If you get into older firearms, and they're not really that valuable, they're still kind of tricky to fix. So if you're going to fix something like this, or like this, I wouldn't expect, you're going to make money on them if that was your intention, because those shotguns are not very valuable. But there are shotguns that can be valuable. I mean, at one time I bought a trigger at an estate sale, and I got almost $1,000 for it. Just the trigger assembly was for a very expensive Italian shotgun. But for those kind of firearms, you're not going to want to work on them yourself. You're going to want to take them to a gunsmith. Whereas these shotguns, they're not worth enough to take to a gunsmith. Do you really want to pay a gunsmith $200 to fix a gun that's worth $200? No. So when you buy one of these guns, you really have to get them in really good shape, working condition, or if they need some work, you better not pay a lot of money. I mean, like $50, $70. Keep it under $100, because they take time and money to fix. Because time is money. It's mainly time to fix, because generally you're not going to be able to get parts for these. Some parts maybe, but most parts you would have to fabricate if it needed a part, and that's going to take time. And my time, just like I would assume your time, is money, so you might want to think twice about that. This is more of a hobbyist thing, especially for these lower-end shotguns like this. I mean, if you're a hobbyist like me and you're interested in seeing how they work and fixing them like an old clock, that I would, and you're familiar with firearms and their function and design, and go ahead and have fun. If you don't have any experience with firearms, I would not recommend taking one of these apart, because you would have a hard time getting it back together, and you'd be pulling your hair out. So, I mean, the whole point is somewhat of a cautionary tale. I mean, when it comes to older shotguns or even older firearms, if you see one that's really cheap and you think, oh, I could buy that and use it, you better make sure it's in really good condition, like I said, because it's not going to be such a great deal as you think. Just as well. I'm sure you don't want to see me smoke. Nervous habit, I guess. Because, like I said, if you look at this hammerless design, this has the same issue as that. The hammers have to go in with the spring, and then you have to pin them. So you can imagine taking this apart and putting this back together can be challenging. And you can see, the bar that connects, the release to the safety, and the bar, and then you have bars that connect from the safety to the sears. It's challenging. And and gunsmiths wouldn't work on these guns unless they were of some value. So, and there are plenty of them that are. So on these lower end shotguns, like I said, unless you're real familiar with firearms, I would stay away from them as far as, unless they're in absolutely fabulous condition. And I would probably have them certified by a gunsmith, like buy them from, a gun shop and have them say, certifying that the gun is operational. Generally, and as far as, like, I've heard people say about, the other thing I want to touch on was ammo. I've heard a lot of people think it's about old shotguns. And, yes, any firearm that you've, that you just bought and it's used, you should probably have it certified by a gunsmith, to check for cracks and things like that. If you're not sure, that's something you can do yourself. But what I wanted to touch on is the metal, okay? In the 19th century, they made what they, called Damascus steel barrels. Now, Damascus steel is old. They use it for swords. It's basically like a process where they fold metal in and put in, it's like a recipe. It was like baking a cake. They would add different, ingredients and fold the metal over and, reheat it. And it worked great on swords, but on shotguns and rifles, it was fine with black powder, but with modern smokeless powder, if you put smokeless powder ammunition in a Damascus steel shotgun, let's say it was magnum load, like a turkey magnum, you'd probably blow the barrel out because it's just not that strong. It's not like modern steel. But by the end of the 19th century, they were making modern steel. Okay, that's a fact. Plenty of Mosin Nagants, for example, shoot a very high pressure round, and these guns started, were released in the 1890s. And there's other guns like that. So most of the shotguns that you see, if they're from the 20th century, like I said, you may want to get them checked out if you're, just to be safe. But I found that they're safe with most ammo. I mean, I wouldn't go blowing slugs through them, or turkey magnum loads, but they're fine with, anything else. Any kind of shot, buckshot, 6-shot, 8-shot for, target. It's not a problem. There's a big difference between like a slug and a turkey, magnum, or a high pressure buckshot. But most of the lesser pressure loads in shotguns are not a problem for any of these shotguns, unless it's a Damascus steel barrel from the 19th century. But most of these like this, you're going to see from the beginning of the 20th century into the second half of the 20th century are not Damascus steel. They're modern steel, and they're fine. Like I said, for occasional use, there's not a problem. The oldest shotgun I ever shot myself was from around 1899, and it didn't have a problem shooting regular 6-shot through it. I used it to hunt and target until I sold it. So be a little cautious, but don't think that any shotgun say made 1920 you can't use or something. No, that's not true. So like I said, I just wanted to point out the fact that some of these older shotguns can be challenging to work on. Not you shouldn't. It's just that if they're not a high value item, it may be like I said, it may turn into a cautionary tale for you because, like I said, you may put in too much money and too much time. So be a little leery, on what you're going to work on and what you're going to buy. And that's about it. Enjoy them though. I mean, don't stop. I've enjoyed working on shotguns, so I shouldn't see why anybody else would. They're a lot of fun, but like I said, they can be time consuming, these older shotguns and even rifles. So, thanks for watching.